Hello and welcome to today's TitanTV Guide Services 104 Q&A with Red Bee Media. This is being recorded today, so if you aren't able to see it or having issues or someone that you know that wanted to attend it, we will be sending out a link to the video sometime after this webinar, and you'll be able to see the full video at that time. So just stay tuned to that for anyone that was registered. I will start. My name is Heidi Steffen. I am the Senior Vice President of TitanTV for Sales and Marketing. I'll hand it over to Chelsea to introduce herself.
Hi, I am Chelsea Stumpff with TitanTV as well. I'm a broadcast tools product manager, but I also probably know a lot of you from doing your Media Star trainings.
Jay.
Sure, my name is Jay Funderlic, and I'm the head of production for content discovery here at Red Bee Media. I essentially oversee the kind of day-to-day listings operations for all of our program metadata.
My name is Paul Kalmbacher. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning if some of you are on the West Coast still. I am the Senior Business Ops Manager here at Red Bee Media, and I serve primarily as a liaison between our business admin teams, our product teams headed up by Jay, and to a certain extent our product technology teams as well. So glad to have everyone aboard, and I hope you find this enlightening and entertaining.
Yes, and Chelsea and I want to say thank you to both Jay and Paul being our guests today on our Q&A. Just a reminder, if you guys have any questions throughout this webinar, there is a question section. Please go ahead and utilize that. Put any question that you might have. Chelsea will be keeping an eye on that throughout the webinar. We do have some questions that we get quite often from a lot of our users. So I'll go ahead and just kick off with that. First of all, Jay and Paul, can you give us a little background on who is Red Bee Media and what does your company do?
Okay, Jay, let me take that one initially, and please feel free to add in anything. I've had a little experience explaining who we are. I'm going to start off with some historical background, all right, to give you an idea of who we are and what we do. We were founded in 2001 as FYI Television. Some of you may be familiar with that name. And back in the day, back in the early 2000s, that early part of the decade, our primary focus was acquiring linear television schedule editing, programming, and providing it to our major clients, which were print guides, i.e. daily newspaper listings and weekend Sunday supplement TV guides, 24-page, 48-page television guides. Of course, the business evolved, the landscape changed, and we evolved with it. And over the course of time, we expanded to a great degree. And so now our primary business verticals include, and I'm doing this from memory, I hope I don't exclude anybody, our primary business verticals are studios and rights organizations, and that's primarily to track airings, the airing rights, and residual payments. We also deal with a number of analytics companies who do some in-depth analysis for any number of other media organizations. I've been apprised that we have some of our ComScore colleagues on board here, and so ComScore is one example of one of the leading analytics type of guides. We also work heavily with what are called middleware providers. And these are the third-party software solution architects who work with cable companies to provide a turnkey end-to-end service and to include on-screen television guide information, your EPG. We also deal directly with major cable companies across the United States and in Canada. And then, of course, there is still a complement of print guides that we still service. It is not as substantial as it was back then, but it is still a vital and vibrant part of our overall business. So let's fast forward a little bit. That was FYI Television. In 2016, we were acquired by Ericsson, the global corporation Ericsson. And that introduced a number of changes. And then in 2017, we were renamed Red Bee Media. All right. Why Red Bee Media? Because prior to 2016, in 2013, Ericsson had acquired one of the leading broadcast services in Europe, which was named Red Bee Media. And so synergy has developed, and we've started to marshal our forces and combine our forces, and we are working together. And Red Bee Media is now a leading international broadcast services. And it's not just content discovery, which is the enhanced metadata and the rich media content. It also includes playout services, signal distribution services, OTT streaming solutions, media management solutions. Jay, forgive me if I forgot anything. We also
access services.
Pardon? Access services. Yeah, access services is a large part of it. That's your closed captioning. And then we serve as a broadcaster rep for any number of major broadcasters in the UK. Yeah. And so that brings us, full circle here. And so now we're one big happy family. Red Bee Media, we have about approximately 2,500 employees worldwide. And what we do on a day in and day out basis is still to a great degree akin to what we did back in the day. And that is acquiring all of this information, enhancing all of it, either through enhanced textual data or imagery or what have you, and provide that to our clients, and who, for the large part, are the end users, are the television viewers at home. So I hope that kind of summarizes who we are and what we do. And if you have any further questions, I would invite you to just visit our website, redbeemedia.com, and you can see gain some further information and insight.
That was great. Jay, you want anything to add to that?
No. Paul's been doing this for a while, so I think he nailed all the points.
Awesome. So we'll dive right into some of the questions. So one of the biggest questions that I think we get from a lot of our clients is really related to local programming. So one of the questions that they're wanting to know is, how do they make sure that that local program description, so it could be their news program or a local program that they produce, how do they make sure that information gets updated?
Okay, yeah, it's a good question. And I think we have a handout that describes some of the guidelines of kind of the information that we're really looking for. As all schedule information really needs to be sent into our primary email address, which is tveditor@fyitelevision.com. It's kind of the central hub for all of the email information that we receive from anybody that's broadcasting, whether it's a network, a cable station, a syndicator, distributor. We want really everything funneled into that email address because it allows us to store everything, see everything, and then channel it to the necessary staff members who need to process that information. And it's a ton of email that we process on a daily basis. It's been a while since I've checked, but I would imagine we're probably at 1,500 to 2,000 emails that are going into that email address on any given day, and then getting sent out to the appropriate staff members. So I think that's key number one. And that's going to include any advanced schedule information as well as any updates that need to be sent out. Along with that, there's core set of information that we're always trying to populate with inside the database here, right? So your program title, and then including any sort of information that may help us, identify that title in the future. So genres, categories, that type of information will help us with search and recommendations. So we can categorize it, whether it's a sports program or a news program, maybe a local sports pre-show. All these little content tags that we have with inside the database help identify and then push that information out. Other information like the runtime, original air date, ratings, all key information, and again helps us identify and differentiate between maybe a local station in Louisiana opposed to a broadcast station in Indianapolis, because sometimes these titles are very, very similar. In addition to the basic program information, then we're looking for any sort of episodic content, season series information, episode numbers, production numbers if you have them. And again, this isn't always going to be available, but as much of it is that can be supplied is going to just benefit us because we can populate the database, make it more rich, and make sure we limit any incorrect polls with inside the database.
Jay, let me interject just briefly.
Yeah.
And I did notice one glaring omission that we should have included. If and when you can provide new and repeat tags, that is extremely helpful, especially in the world of DVRs.
Yep, absolutely. And then the actual description copy, is important as well. And I think that's one that, local broadcasters want to get out there. Our character limit is that our traditional character limit is 250 characters. That includes spaces, punctuations, so keep that in consideration. We may need to cut it down. It may not always, fit that. It can be a little bit less, but 250 is kind of our standard, one of our standard, 5 core fields that we're trying to populate for all programs. Same thing for episodic descriptions. If there are, available descriptions available, then that information should be sent out as well. We do try to keep what we call, our Red Bee Media voice. So, factual information. We try not to, over embellish, oversell some of the programs. So try to keep it as factual as possible, because we want, anytime that you're looking at a guide, it to have some consistency, right? So we want most of our news programs to be very similar. Same thing with our series descriptions. They're all kind of written in the same kind of tone. That way, one doesn't look like a 12-year-old wrote it, and one doesn't look like a college scholar wrote it. So we try to keep them all very same and similar as much as possible. Again, any entity and host information, so cast, performers, participants, any of that's available. That data we try to eliminate or remove from the actual description, because it's a little bit more difficult to update that should somebody, the host gets, changed on a yearly basis or things like that. So it's a little bit more difficult to identify that and update it. So we try to keep that within the core program itself. Any sort of social media, official websites, Twitter handles, Facebook pages, all that information, if you have it, send it that way. It's something else that we can package and deliver out, and hopefully, draw more traffic to these different places, because people like that engagement, the social media engagement. And then finally, imagery, same thing, and we'll go over another sheet here in a little bit, but your channel logos, any sort of show card information, program stills, cast stills, in the highest resolution possible. There's so many different aspect ratios that that different clients require. Ideally, if we can get the largest one possible, then that allows us to then make the necessary adjustments to get it into a 16:9 or a 4:3 or a 2:3 or whatever it might be.
And I know one of the questions that was asked is if there is a handout, and actually if you guys go to the handout section in the GoToWebinar, this is one of the 2 webinars that one of the 2 documents that you can download. We will also include this in the email blast after this, so that in case you didn't get it downloaded, you will get it in the email after that. Chelsea, are any other questions related to the items that we just discussed?
There's a couple questions that have just come through. Can you confirm that you get episode information and graphics directly from syndicators like Warner Brothers?
So it's gonna depend. I don't know Warner Brothers, off the top of my head, but in some cases, some syndicators are going to be better than others. I would say, if it's a syndicated program, and historically we probably already have that information. We probably got it when it was originally released. In some cases, they'll be able to provide us archive information or even anything that's currently airing. But it's really kind of a case-by-case basis. We handle dozens and dozens of different syndicators, and I think we do about 350 some odd programs at any given time that are in syndication, that are continually airing. So it's hard to kind of nail it down. It has to be done more on a case-by-case basis. But if you have it, send that information, or if you're able to supply it, then it only helps us.
And secondly, if the syndicator has it available, it will be made available to us, and we can then pass that along to our clients for usage.
Any others, Chelsea?
Yes. Do you reference the IDER information for local station programs, if available?
Yes, yes. So yes, we do. We are a member of IDER, so we have that information. We store it actually as third-party IDs. So if it is available, then it should be mapped with inside of our system.
Good question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any others on that one, Chelsea?
Not at this time.
Great. We will move on to our next one. And Jay kind of references a little bit, but Jay, one of the questions we get as well is they notice on our Titan TV guide on their website that the channel logo is incorrect or the show card program logo needs to be updated. What are the specs and what do they need to know to be able to update that and send it to you?
Yeah, so yeah, I kind of hit on this previously. This document outlines everything pretty well, you know, so I encourage everyone to take a look at it. Our second primary email address is at mediacontent@fytelevision.com. That can be utilized for any sort of submission of imagery. I would always include TV editor as well, but that one's going to go directly to the media content team, and you know, they'll be able to, you know, process or address any specific questions or anything you have, you know, related to media content. But this document, you know, this document here does a pretty good job of outlining the terms, things that we're looking for. And again, this is ideal situation. So everything might not be able to be, you know, hit with inside this. You may have some, in some cases, and others may be lacking it. But it identifies those aspect ratios that we're looking for, and again talks about, you know, the optimal image sizes that we, you know, would prefer to have, along with, are we looking for, you know, JPEGs or PNG files and things like that. And so I think in here, yeah, so for station logos, you know, PNG or EPS is the preferred file, and then from there we can say, you know, save them down as JPEGs or however we may be delivering them to, you know, each individual client.
Great. And just a reminder, this is the second document that you are able to actually download in the handouts. The other thing that I wanted to point out related to images, there is a time frame that for it to get updated in their system versus ours. Oh, let me refresh this. That's right. And for those stations, we do have what we call our client media manager, where you're able to actually upload your logo and show cards, so it'll be able to show up on the guide automatically. The only thing that I can say is that if Red Bee does send us an updated, it will not override what you have. So that's one thing you just need to keep in mind. This is a free tool, and you just need to email customer care at TitanTV.com, and we can add it into your login at any time. And then if you need any training on it, that's where Chelsea will come in and walk you through it. But it's pretty easy to use. Chelsea, do we have any other questions at this time?
Yes, one more has come in. Are there any particular file formats desired? For example, Excel or Word? Do you prefer a grid, 7 days a week on one page, or a chronological list of programming?
Yes. So yeah, from a preference standpoint, man, that may depend on the actual individual editing each channel. But I would say Excel is definitely probably the preferred version. You know, and then, you know, all the accompanying episodic information hopefully available with that for reference points would be beneficial. We're typically working, you know, on a week's worth of information at any given time. So, you know, your standard kind of broadcast schedule works for us. So maybe 1 week at a time on individual tabs for Excel, I think would be the best for us. But again, we work with everything from Word documents to you know, strict text files. So there's nothing that we probably haven't seen before in Camera. As long as the information is there and presented clearly, we should be able to get it in.
In that same vein, we're dealing with advanced schedule information, and as Jay says, you know, we have seen any and all number of formats, and there is no specific preference as long as it's clearly outlined. But then when updates are sent in, if you do indeed use the same format, it's helpful if you can highlight where those updates or changes are occurring, so that we do not have to read line by line through that previous advanced schedule. And that is a huge efficiency that allows us to populate your updates much sooner.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good point. Yeah, or identified in the body of the email is beneficial. Preferably both. In all honesty. Then also specifying is it a until further notice change, or is it a one-time only change? That sort of information, bolded, highlighted would definitely be beneficial and help limit any sort of data entry errors along that line. Anything else that you can do anything you can do to call attention to it, like I said.
And if you are a MediaStar scheduler user, we have been able to set up particular reports that actually use the change date filter. So I'll just scroll down here. So you can either do a range or an actual date. And what it will do then when we set up the report, and Chelsea can help you set this up, is you can then have any of those changes from the last time you sent a report highlighted in yellow. And then with this, you are able to add any additional comments on the header or even on the cover notes page that you have. We do know that a lot of times what stations will do, they'll go ahead and click on the send the PDF. It'll open up their email, and there it is. And that's where you can quickly then put your notes here and then go ahead and send it out. And if you are sending multiple stations, all you really have to do is click to the next station, click on send PDF. I'm just going to now just grab this, and now I can put my demo 6 schedule, oops, and pop that in, and now I can send it. So again, if this is something that you would like us to help you set up this change report that you can utilize to send to all the data providers, just email us at customercare@titantv.com, and we will work on getting that set up for you and walk you through it. I know another question had come in that I saw related to reports while we're on this is an Excel grid report. MediaStar does have that as an option. This is one, if this is something you're interested in, we would have to turn it on for you. You would be able to do the report, and then you can download it, save it, and you're able to send that out. A lot of this is used more for like some of our networks that want to have additional information in there, or we've had sales team utilize it, so that is an option through MediaStar as well. Chelsea, are there any other questions related to reports at this time that we could kind of go over?
Let's see, there's quite a few that have come in recently. Let's see here. Is there an XML data file that could be exported from TV scheduling software?
So from ours, and I think it answers another question, we are currently working with Red Bee Media on electronically sending the data to them. There's several reasons behind this. One is we want to make it quicker, so it gets into their system and other data providers. This is just in our demo site. We're just general one. I want to send the data. I go ahead and send it, and now it's been electronically signed or sent through like an XML data feed. So that is something that we're hoping to be able to announce and make official end of this year with Red Bee. So once we do that, we will roll it out to all of our scheduler users and do training. It's pretty easy to do. And it does go over some of the information that will be sent, so you don't even need to worry about the fields that will be sent. There are fields that are required that if they are filled out, we send them. So hopefully that answers those 2 questions.
Yeah. And I think that there was just a couple other questions just about making sure that changes aren't being missed. Again, I think Jay had mentioned highlighting that information. It helps.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk about the TV editor email address. So many times there's relationships being built, with the individual, editors who are responsible for maintaining those channels. So any sort of, contacts that you have, feel free to reach out to them for any sort of clarification or confirmation, because, things, won't say get lost, but, send it out to that TV editor email address. It's somewhat informal and goes out. And I know a lot of times that we start adding, or schedules will add on, contacts here at Red Bee, and that I encourage 100%, because, we do want that close working relationship to make sure that, questions are being answered and asked, and that we are, providing the best service as possible. So I'd also encourage that as well. And reach out to if you need any of those contacts. And then one last thing, which I think is considering the time of year that we're slowly approaching, which is fall lineups and the big kind of juggling of schedules and syndication and things along that line. Any sort of additional information that can be provided as far as like runs, what it's weekend A run or B run, things along that line. Up front would be really, really beneficial. And if somebody questions, because we'll probably be sending out a lot of emails and questions on what's being picked up and what's being dropped, that's really, really helpful, because it's a busy time of year, and it's things are continually shuffling and changing for us. So.
And it looks like another one of the changes or questions that were there, it's kind of related today, is there a way to have day of change added to the process? So I think that's kind of our end goal. Again, with the data exchange project with Red Bee, is that they could. But again, just because they can ingest it on the day of doesn't mean, as we've talked to in some of our other guide webinars, is that it's going to get out and updated on, for example, a cable company just because of their process, or it won't get updated in the newspaper. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Our goal with this project is to make that time that you send the information to Red Bee, it's updated in their system much quicker, more efficiently, and updated out to where they provide their data. But then again, with our MediaStar tool, it allows you to make those last minute changes. And once you publish it, it'll go ahead and update any of our services, from the guide that might be on your website to the piece of data to anywhere else that we might provide data. Chelsea, let's just start rolling. There's quite a few questions in there. Let us just go to the next one and let us go from there.
I'm not sure if this is a question, but a comment. I send them a weekly change report and the change report list, and it seems to work for most entities. So that's a comment from a MediaStar user. Another question that we have. Oh, okay, great.
So what she's talking about is we can set up a same thing that we're using that filter for the change date. And I don't know if I have a date, but this would then include just the changes for those time frames that you would have, and then you can electronically send it that way.
Did you want to show anything else there, or should I go to the next question?
Go ahead.
Okay. Next question is, are you affiliated with Nielsen?
Yeah, no, we're not.
No.
Okay. Do you foresee implementing an electronic schedule submission process in place of daily emails, which I think was answered previously?
Yep, that'd be our send data.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think we've gotten to a lot of these indirectly. So if you have further questions on those that have been submitted, I would reach out to our customer care. You can reach out to Heidi or myself directly with any additional questions, and we're happy to help or jump on a call and walk through any questions that you have as well.
And that's where I would just want to reference, if you're a MediaStar user, on the homepage is where we have those general contacts. So there's the customer care. I always recommend to send it directly to customer care in case, especially in the summer, one of us or more of us are out on vacation, which was the case last week. We have also added to this is the reporting context. Oops, my mouse got happy. So there is that one for FYI television. We've also included the other 3 major ones. So just to make sure that you are sending them to there. And again, we talk about schedule errors here related to FYI Red Bee and what you can expect. So if you have any additional questions, please let us know, especially if some of this isn't clear. We'd love to kind of follow up with that. One of the questions, Jay, that we get quite often is related to episodes and related to syndicated episodes. So the question is, why do some program episodes fill in MediaStar, for example, 2 weeks out, versus a show like Dr. Phil, we only see it the week of or week in advance?
Yeah, kind of a shared headache, I think, for us as well. So, sometimes we're at liberty of the data that we receive, right? And so in some cases for syndication, we may get the entire year up front in advance, everything that we need. And then it doesn't change. Sometimes they do modify, and we're able to populate the database all at one go and not worry about it anymore. In other cases, we receive the information very, very close to air. So a week out, sometimes we'll receive a lot of information, Friday before the following week's, airings right then. So, we've got people on standby who are just, waiting for these emails to come in so we can then go in and populate, the episodic content, that's provided to us. So it's like I said, we're kind of at liberty sometimes of what we're receiving and what we're not receiving, and that's why you're gonna see the differences in the content that's being presented. Absolutely.
One case point further to that is the networks put an embargo on the release of the information for the soap operas. I know there's not as many soap operas today as there used to be, but those embargoes are still in place. And with our agreement with the networks, we cannot release that until basically practically day of. So.
Yeah, those are a lot closer. Can't release the stories.
Yes. Chelsea, are there any other ones? I'm trying to read through them as well.
Yes. Just one wanted to know, they missed the first few minutes, wanted to know if there would be a link to the video. I'm not sure if anybody else saw that in the questions. But yes, we will be sending a link to the webinar sooner rather than later after we're done here today. We'll be making sure that everyone registered gets a copy of the webinar. And then another question that we have here is going to be, often my local changes aren't getting updated. I sent change notice on 7/9 for this week and none of it was updated.
So yeah, in that particular case, then I don't know if definitely needs to be sent to TV editor, but then again, escalated probably through through us here and through Titan, so we can try to figure out what the actual cause was for whether it was a missed update or whatever the case may be. So I think any sort of escalations, if you have a contact, feel free to utilize me, and we can make sure that we get everybody, our operations managers in contact, so we can troubleshoot exactly what the specific issue was.
And that's where I would even point out to that, email us at customer care. Say, here's the email that I sent to TV editor. Maybe we can give you some tips, or maybe that's where we can look at even MediaStar more indirectly and say, okay, how can we make the reports even more efficient as far as pointing out changes? So that's where we're, if you really feel like things are getting missed, let us review it. And then we actually have a call with Red Bee every 2 weeks, and we go over some of those outstanding tickets or concerns that have come up. So again, just communicate with us and we can help with some of that and hopefully improve the process as well.
Yeah, and Heidi, yeah. I'd mention also that in addition to the biweekly meetings, we are in constant contact with Titan on a daily basis for some of these concerns. And so if you have submitted that, Titan will be in touch with us on a daily, hourly basis till we find resolution. It's unfortunate. We apologize if the updates have been missed. There's always a reason for. But we just have to sometimes find out what that cause was.
Right. And this kind of came up in questions too, but it's also on mine, so I'll go ahead and ask it. So one of the questions we get quite often is related to paid programming, that a particular program, and sometimes it's a local programming, why is it coming across as paid programming? So first, can you just tell us what your policy is on paid programming?
Yeah, generally, just our corporate guidelines and policy is we do not list paid programming. That's the start point. We just do not list it. It's such a volatile and subject to change, and truthfully, the vast majority of schedules that we do see simply have the paid program block. And that's the way we have approached it traditionally. There have been exceptions that are made. To let you know, in total transparency, we do have a contractual agreement with a major direct response marketer, and we will list some of those titles. But everybody is making money off of these paid programs, and so that's where it comes down to. So we will take that extra effort, and because a lot of it is just title creation. Creating titles in our database. You know, we don't want to have titles that may only be available for, you know, a 2 to 3 week period and then pulled. But if there is a monetary value to that, we will examine and consider any and all exceptions to that.
And we also have that information policy in writing too. So if you have anyone at your station that has questioning that, let us know. We can forward that on. If you are a MediaStar user, especially MediaStar Scheduler, the tool does allow you to change that paid programming that we're getting in from Redbee FYI to a different program. So for example, here's my paid program that I currently have listed. I can go to my program filter. I'm gonna look up my local. Let's say this is the name of the program. I can go over here then, if I need to report on things, I can then add this filter as a paid program, and I hit save. So now I've updated on my schedule within MediaStar, and this could be MediaStar Editor too, but again, that's going to be a one time that you'll have to do a lot. And of course, I picked a time frame that wasn't full. So let me just expand that. And that should save. And then once I've made that change, I just go to publish. The publish again is what's going to push that out to the guide on your website and then out to PISA. And same thing with that, if that's now a local program and you want to make sure you have a show card or things associated to, that's where you would then log into this client media. You would find that program, whatever it might be, and then you can go ahead and add an image for it. So this wasn't necessarily a local one, but that gives you an idea. Were there any other questions related to paid programming, Chelsea, that I might have missed?
I'm not seeing anything. I think you might have already answered that paid programming that came in just last. We've noticed some of our paid programming clients that don't report titles for do end up with titles in menus. Would that be one of your direct clients? Is there another service that we can refer paid clients to for titling?
I'm not certain how to answer that. That's certainly a distinct possibility that it is being populated through our arrangement with one of the leading marketers. I would have to know the specifics in order to answer that more effectively.
Yeah, and you know, I know, Paul, we've talked about this previously too. Sometimes, depending on the title, you know, we joke around about, you know, Ginsu Knives and Ron Popeil. Some of those are obvious. In certain cases, you know, it may just look like a normal program if it's listed inside of the guide or inside the listings itself, right? So you may just have a bad decision on our part for creating something that should have been a paid program as well. So, you know, like Paul said, any additional information that we can definitely look into and try to figure out what the issue may be.
There was another question that came in. It's related more to TitanTV. They wanted to know if there's someone assigned to them as far as in a station related to an account. I would say you do have a salesperson that's assigned to you, which more likely is myself, Chelsea, Colin, or Arlen. But I always recommend, if it is an issue or a scheduling or something, to email customer care. We do have top priority with anything that comes into customer care, which goes to, again, myself, Chelsea, Marge, Dwayne, and Morgan, that someone is always answering and following up with that email every day. If you feel by the end of the day you have not got a response to us, which is very unusual, just resend it to it. There could be different circumstances of how it might have got missed, but on a regular basis, our team is answering and following up with all those customer care. Then if there's an issue where it's related to Redbee TitanTV, we have a ticketing system that we put it in directly to there to try to get it addressed, or sometimes we make some suggestions or updates on our end. Alrighty. Another question we have here is, what is needed and how far in advance do you need to know when a station would add or change an affiliation to one of their channels?
Yeah, so that's a good one. You know, as much notice as possible is always going to be within reason, I guess. We don't need to know things years in advance, but you know, within the next couple of weeks was probably be, you know, beneficial. It's something that we could schedule in advance. You know, create an internal ticket, make sure that we process it prior to the change being made. If it's something that has happened previously, the date is really specific, you know, for us. So, you know, if something's changed from a bounce to a cozy, and that happened, you know, 2 months ago, you know, the actual date of when that change happened is important to us because we're trying to make that database as accurate as possible. So we're actually go back in through the system and make sure that all of our archive data reflects it properly. We'll add a note to the system as well of, you know, how we verified that change. You know, so a couple of weeks is ideal, but like I said, we can process them as soon as we receive confirmation. And then if it is a historical change, then as long as we have that date, if it's unavailable, roundabouts work, you know, so I know sometimes there's a disconnect maybe between the schedulers and engineering of, you know, we don't send out a schedule for bounce or cozy, and we were never notified. And maybe it happened a year ago or 6 months ago. Roundabouts will work. So we'll still ask for it, and if not, we'll just make the change going forward and make note of it inside the system.
And in that same vein, though, even for upcoming changes, you'd be surprised how many submissions we get just notifying us that a change will come. Again, an effective date is very important because we don't want to go in and arbitrarily change prematurely, you know, prior to the actual content changing. So if you can alert us and be as specific as possible, use broadcast days and times and what have you, and we can get that down to the nth degree in terms of the actual programming changes.
Yes, and a reminder too, not only send it to Red Bee, but also send it to TitanTV so that we can make sure that we update your guides, we update everything in our system, so that when that change does come in from FYI Red Bee, it is updated on the guide on your website and also in your PSUP. Plus, we update it in MediaStar as well. So the further out, we always say the further out you can let us know of any of those changes, the channel, the call letters, the affiliation change, and a live date, the sooner we can get that in our system and make sure it's ready for you to go live. So another question I'm seeing here is there a best practice to indicate that a program or episode is new for a station when sending the schedule report for upload to the listing services when we are not able to indicate it on the report that is emailed to you?
I think it could be communicated in the body of an email would work for us. You know, certain information, you know, even if it's something that is ongoing, right? If we want to say that this, you know, local program is new every Saturday morning at 9, you know, again, you know, until further notice, or it's always like that, then, you know, that's something that we would add to the database. We should make a note with inside, you know, our internal software of that information, and then we would then copy it forward with inside what we call our generic week to make sure that it's populated there going forward, that we don't strip it out, not include it next week, you know, until you email us again and say, hey, this is new. So there's that type of information. I think if you can call it out and specify how long, then we should be able to accommodate that.
Yeah, and just to ensure accuracy, that same would apply if there are repeat airings of that particular program. If you're not able to express it on the actual grid or the schedule, then if you could outline that in the body of the email, like Jay has referenced, always new at XYZ time, always repeat at ABC.
And one of the things I just showed in MediaStar Scheduler for the scheduler users out there, we do have one, the new repeat field can show up on the report, and 2, you can then filter it. So right here, I did quickly, I had all the shows that are set to new are going to be highlighted in green. So this could be another option as well to include with that. So if this is something you're interested in, just let us know and we can help you set this up as well. Let's see if there's any other So one question, we've been talking about sending changes and things. So the bigger question is, as of today, if someone sends a change to you in an email, how long does that get updated in your system and out to other providers like ourselves that receives your data?
Yeah, Heidi, I think you hit on this a little bit earlier as well. We're constantly juggling priorities. You know, talking about all the emails that we're receiving that are getting funneled to the staff members, and those staff members are then reviewing, you know, all of those emails with inside of our current workload in order to determine when to process, you know, certain schedules. Ideally, we're updating and we're keeping current 21 days, you know, out at minimum. But as far as like schedule changes, you know, updates and things along that line, we're going to prioritize anything that is same day and then 48 hours into the future. And those should be processed, you know, day up. That's what should be happening. Anything outside of that, past that 48 hours, is going to be potentially, you know, processed a day or two later, depending on, you know, how many other changes there may be, you know, out there for us to update with inside the system. So once it's in the database, then, you know, in theory, we can, you know, push that out in near real time, you know, out to an API. But again, as we talked about previously, it's going to depend on, you know, what client has, you know, their you know, scheduled delivery of the metadata itself. So it could be somebody that is pulling down from the API and it would be, you know, presented in real time or very near real time. Or it could be somebody that has a nightly file and it's going to have to wait for our compilation process to happen and that file handshake to happen and then push through different systems. So I would say most things you're going to see in, you know, 24 to 48 hours after submission, you know, as a general kind of rule, but it could potentially be longer.
And that, because of that, that's where all of our clients that have our guide or PSUP have at least MediaStar Editor that allows you to see that 14 days of your data. So if I go here to my editor channel, I can make that change and then I can go to publish. I can go ahead and then publish that out to my guide or to my PSUP so that that data, especially for today and maybe tomorrow's schedule, is accurate until we can get the updated data through our overnight process that we get the data from Redbee. So again, that's just a reminder for any of our MediaStar users of how you're able to make that change. If you're interested and maybe you don't have access today to our MediaStar tool and you are a MediaStar Editor client, let us know. We can go ahead and get you set up. Chelsea will train you, walk you through all of that and show you how to utilize that. The one thing that I just made the big mistake as I did it, and I realized it, is you really should only publish the date that you made a change, because now that I've published 14 days out in my MediaStar Editor, these 14 days will not get updated by any updates that might come from Redbee through the overnight process. So that is one thing to kind of keep in mind. And what you do is, let me go back to here, is so you'll see the difference here where it says no T. That means I, as the user, have gone into those days and made a change. And the ones that have a T, that means that information that's currently there came in through our overnight process and is sitting in MediaStar. So I really only want to publish the days that I actually have the ready with no T. And then these, if there's additional changes that come from FYI, they'll automatically update. So, and if you're a MediaStar scheduler, that's a whole different thing. You do have access to what we call the import mode. It will, the overnight process will not update your schedule if it's been published as an editor, but you can go here in the import mode. So in the data feed here, here's what we're currently getting from Redbee related to that time frame, and I can quickly put it into my scheduler to update it if it is correct and I forgot to update my system. So again, if you want to know more about that, we can set up a time to go over that. Chelsea, are there any other questions that have come in we need to cover? Did we lose her?
Sorry about that. I muted myself. I think just reiterating who they need to contact, the customer care number or email address, I should say. That's come in. Who do I contact? If I am seeing issues on the TitanTV side, or if I'm noticing that things need to be modified, that would be helpful to show that again.
Yep, so again, it's customercare@titantv.com. And then we always recommend, if you feel like it's also related to some of the data we're getting, just copy tveditor@fyitelevision.com or put us both at the main, and that way at the same time both organizations are looking into to see where the issue is at and getting it resolved a lot quicker. Anything else? We have about
I have one more question that came in for a MediaStar scheduler user. She goes in and updates her MediaStar scheduler and sends them out to listing services, but she wanted to know if she should check the data that's coming in from FYI to make sure that they're receiving it correctly because of the other people that they provide information to.
Yeah, so that's another reference too. If you want to know what we are currently getting from RedB FYI, go to the import mode and you will see that what we are getting from them. And you got to remember too, there is that 48, 24 to 72 hour time frame from when you initially sent the change before it gets back in our system. But that's a good thing to look at. And a lot of times that's where the import mode becomes very important to us, especially if episodes numbers not coming in. And a lot of times we see it in the overnight process is where maybe the programs are off a little bit versus what you have in there. That could be a slight change. We just need to notify FYI to update their time frames for those to things to flow in. Any other questions?
Yes. Who should they contact to get a backup MediaStar user for when they're out of the office?
Again, I'm going to refer back to that customercare@titantv.com because it just depends on who's here. More likely, Dwayne sets up everything, but he might be out of the office that day, so we want to make sure you get updated and sent out. So just email to customercare@titantv. He'll set up the new user, or Morgan will, or whoever might be. We'll send you an email or that person's email with the information. And also in that email will be a link to the training. So this is something that you can do at any time. It is on the home page again of MediaStar. You just click on that training link, and then depend on what version of MediaStar you have, or maybe you have MediaStar Scheduler, but it's a ComScore question. Just click on that version. Look into, this is actually Chelsea's schedule, and it's going to block off an hour. Go ahead and do it. Even if you think it's just a 5-minute question, this will give you her undivided attention, and then she'll be able to answer all your questions. Doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes or an hour. This is your opportunity, because we know a lot of times it's easier to ask her questions, on a call or on a video call than it is trying to explain things in an email, and then she can actually walk you through it as well. Anything else to add to that, Chelsea?
Nope, I don't believe so. And I am not seeing any new questions in here either.
So Jay or Paul, we got about 5 minutes. Is there anything else that you want to kind of add, or just want to make sure that everyone on the webinar is aware of, and as a reminder for best practices?
No, I think, just reaching out to TV editor, for any sort of questions or anything along that line, feel free to reach out to me if you feel that there's something not being addressed. And as always, keep in contact with Titan, and hopefully we can address any issues or questions that arise. And, we're here to serve you guys and, make the information as accurate as possible. So that's what we want to do.
And I am not normally at a loss for words, but I think we've covered this pretty vibrantly. And again, I guess piggyback to some degree what Jay said. We're partners in this. We are partners, and we all work together for best practices. If you've got ideas, send them our way. If you think something is going awry, let us know. The lack of visibility sometimes is as long as we know, we can find that root cause and see what the issues are here. But again, this is a team effort, and so anything and everything we can do to support your information being communicated to our clients, who, like I say, are the end user television viewers primarily, we'll take whatever steps are necessary. And I just wanted to thank everybody for taking time out of their day to join us and listen to us talk shop here as well.
Yes, and we appreciate you guys coming on and having us throw these questions at you because we get them quite a bit. And I just want to, everyone that's on this as well, a reminder, we will be sending out an email afterwards that will have both of those documents on it. This is again for anyone that registered, and also a link to the video once we're able to edit it and get it up on YouTube. Then you can access it at any time. And then also there was a lot of questions that went by that we might not have been able to answer or were so direct. What I would suggest, if your question was not answered, go ahead and email us at customercare@titantv.com and put that question in there and let us work with you, because it could be something that we need to dig deeper into what the current issue that you're having. Or I saw there was a question about, I need to send all this information in a report, but the fonts are too small. How do I do it? What I would like to do and try to is actually set up a call, walk you through it, and we'll go through some ideas of what might work better for your particular situation. Well, thank you again to Jay and Paul for joining us on our Titan TV Guide Services 104 webinar. We appreciate your time today. And everyone else, thanks again.
Our pleasure.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.